bonding with nature and share with you, my own journey with bonding with nature. So as a child, uh, this is my background, my backyard. I used to often, walk with my father in the outskirts of the city. What you see here is Panjim city in the background. And basically, there's a forest. We're lucky to have a forest. It's a mangrove forest. And I would often spend time, napping in the shade of the mangrove trees. I didn't know the impact of these experiences on my life, but it was really a special moment for me. I would often go to the mangrove forest, walk in its slushy soil, meet friends of the mangroves, little crabs, little fish, a crocodile or two. I also interacted with the community that, earned their livelihoods from working in these backyards. The salt pans are well known in Goa, and there are many communities that work here, work hard through the year to harvest salt. And I remember a moment when I would often go with my grandmother to the salt pans in South Goa, trailing her with baskets, with a lot of workers carrying baskets to collect the salt and bring it back home. I also, walked the forest floor. This is a typical image of what you see in the forest: dry leaves. Okay, and what you see, the tiny things that are rising from the dry leaves, is nothing but mushrooms. And mushroom is nothing but a fungus, and it helps degrade, everything that is being composted in the forest. You know what the what the soil smells like when it rains for the first time? It's called petrichor, and that is a smell or an odor that I love best. It reminds me of the forest. It reminds me of the time in the forest. So, as a kid, all these things, I learned a lot of things about nature from simply observing, seeing. My father did not tell me, the specific names of certain things, but I think traditionally community does that. A lot of children learn from observation, from seeing. They practice what their ancestors are doing, and in a way, that's the best way of learning. Now, having said this, it was only after my children were born I began to feel a need to share my experiences with nature, with children around me. So I began to do that about more than 10 years ago, when I started taking children from my neighborhood to the backyards of my city. And initially it was great, because today, if you see, children spend most of their time indoors. They are in closed environments. They have very limited knowledge from books. And when they are allowed to explore the outdoors, there is this enthusiasm that gets unleashed. They begin to shout out loudly. They begin to roll in the grass, and this is what the children in their first experiences did. They began collecting found material like bird feathers. They began to roll in the grass, smelling the fresh smell of the wet soil, and so on and so forth. As I continued with these experiences with neighborhood children and children in small groups, I also had opportunities to work with students from schools. And these were basically to promote conservation of environment, national level programs. And I felt very privileged to do this, because for me, I'm not a formal teacher, but the fact that I could share these experiences with children was something that I looked forward to. And my method of sharing or teaching children about nature was fairly simple. I imagine I was just following my father in the wilderness, and I would take children, whether they were from a particular school or from a larger group of schools, simply into the backyards of the city. This is at a beach that is close to our city, and we're exploring the vegetation, understanding what the vegetation does, to soil conservation, what role every species, whether it's a crab on the beach that's eating algae, to certain flowers that attract bees and butterflies, to the casuarina trees in the backyard, okay, which help mitigate or limit winds, stormy winds that we often experience on in this coastal area. Following this, I also would take students that would work with me, interns that would work with me in my professional practice of architecture, to backyards, to construction sites, so they would understand, they would get a real understanding of the kind of wealth that we have. I call these assets in nature, which once we bond with, there is a need to protect these. These are again, Goa has a lovely set of backwaters. They are called the khazans. They are nothing but man-made dikes along the floodplains. And these channelize water. They are climate resilient systems. And many people don't know. They were built about 3,500 years ago. And we realize its significance today as more and more researchers talk to us about, how these systems play an important role in climate change and climate resilience. These backwaters are great because we have the local community. They catch fish in these areas when going out to sea to catch fish is extremely dangerous. We also have areas where salt is harvested. So what basically happens is there are sluice gates and channels which allow tidal currents to come in. So these are very low lying areas. You can walk through the waters. We swim very often in these waters, and you can experience the occupational activity here. You can experience the wealth in terms of biodiversity. We've found migratory birds in these areas. I often have students who make a trip on their own to these areas, and they often say that this is a different side of Goa that they've never seen. I've also been taking, all the work that I do with children has fueled me to simply share, learnings, and many of the learnings I've experienced myself. Some of the experience are to do with farming. We've been engaging with farming ourselves. I know how to grow rice. I know how to transplant paddy. And we've been doing this with a large group of school students, with a large group of college students, with senior citizens, and even a large group of visitors to the state for various festivals that Goa is famous for. This is during the Serendipity Arts and Culture Festival, where we took a large group over 3 days to help them understand about ecology, about biodiversity, and our connection to food. So here we have a group that engaged in growing rice. They were engaged in growing vegetables, which 3 months later we harvested, and we used it, in cooking the local cuisine. Besides this, one of the programs I've been doing, with one of my colleagues is called the emergency pontoon boat exercise. This is simply to teach business students and to teach the students of architecture, how to build a temporary structure. And why is this important is simply because being a coastal state, we need to be conscious about climate change. We need to be conscious about floods and ways in which we can help the community to mitigate these, help the community to plan for disasters, help the community to build during the period of unprecedented disasters. So this is an interesting exercise I've done over the last many years with students of business, with students of architecture, where we simply take recycled materials, we take barrels, bamboos, and we help them design and build these. Many of the students don't even know swimming, but we take basic life and first aid systems by which these are very shallow waters, and we help students to experience what it is like to build temporary structures, to build these emergency boats and go out in the waters. So what does this do to students? It basically, brings along a sensitivity to understand first the importance of these backwaters, to help them understand importance of these coastal systems, and that to take ownership of these systems, and in a way be a part of the solutions that we can provide for a coastal city and the problems of a coastal city. Another exercise that we have done with students to engage them with understanding nature and bond with nature is to look at water pollution. In Panjim, we have a creek which is for many years has been in the eye and in the news for high levels of pollution. And we've been often, intervening, saying that in nature there are simpler systems where you find plants filtering water, and we don't need very expensive systems to do this. So this is a exercise called building floating gardens. We had more than 100 students from a business school, designing systems for bioremediation, and having done a thorough study of what are the plants, the local plants, simple plants like banana, colocasia, understanding how these work to help filter what we call dirty water or nutrient rich water. And this was a full day exercise. We've been again doing this for a number of years, particularly during the post monsoon period. One of the important aspects of working with children, engaging children, and getting them to work and bond with nature is also to integrate those that are less privileged in society. And try to involve children from a particular slum like area that we have often worked with, and we work at different levels. We work with these children to look at mental health, to look at sanitation, to look at education. We have picked up a lot of children from these areas who have been dropouts. We engage them in most of the programs which brings about a sensitivity to our immediate surroundings. And this particular slum in question has a lovely creek, has a lot of wetland area, and if the children bond with their immediate neighborhoods, like all of us do, they will begin to take ownership of it. They will begin to take ownership, where they will begin to protect it. So this is a program that we did to connect with biodiversity. They are called, it's called Trailing Biodiversity. It's part of a larger program called the Traveling Dome. It's an education where a lot of children are taken to different ecosystems to understand what are coastal ecosystems like, what are wetland ecosystems like, what are forest ecosystems like. Another group of children I work with is the blind school, and there are about 30 visually impaired children. Some of them are completely blind, and this was some years ago when we took them to the beach for the first time. Because of a lot of limitations in terms of mobility, and access to public spaces, I've also worked with these children to give them an inclusive platform where environment awareness and bonding with nature is not exclusive. Everybody should be given an opportunity to connect with nature, to understand what we have. And we did this program as a collaborative program with students of an ordinary school and students of the blind school, where they shared experiences, and many of the blind children were able to talk about their skills and their abilities, and share how they understand nature. It was really a beautiful exercise. What does this all lead to, and during the lockdown we have had to pause and think about what we are doing to our environment. And this has made us think consciously of many of the methods that the world uses to derive things from nature, to get benefits from nature without giving anything back. During the lockdown in Goa, the lockdown was imposed on March 22nd. And for us, the children and the students that are involved in our programs, we felt that we were in a state where there was no limitation when many others experienced being locked down in their homes, because during that period we were locked down in a forest, and we were building helping build a reservoir with an institution run by priests, by the Don Bosco priests here in Goa. And we it was such a lovely experience, because for 2 days at the beginning of the lockdown we were in the forest as our home, as our lockdown home. And we felt so liberated to be with nature. This is how the reservoir looked before it was built, and this is how it looked when the rain set in. It was ethereal to see so much water collected in a place where we plan to use it for the agricultural fields in the low-lying areas. And we had about 10 students here who are working with me, and a few children. And over 2 days we walked along with Father Lawrence, and in this forest we did a night trail. We spent time lying down on the grass looking up at the stars on a dark night. And while the world experienced a lockdown, we were in a lockdown of hope. We were in a lockdown of a miracle, so to speak. These are some of the images that the students put together. This is the image on the left is how the starry night looked like on the day of the lockdown. It was absolutely magical. And the picture on the right is an illustration done by one of the students of this little pool of water, amazing, with a waterfall that we spent a whole day on. There were butterflies, there were birds chirping. It felt like as if we were in paradise, and maybe on a threshold of doing something special. What does all the work that we do with children, especially when we talk about the pandemic, lead us to? It is heartening to know that in the 4 5 months that we've been in lockdown, especially in Goa, in India, we've seen a lot of troublesome times, because there have been infrastructure projects that have been given a go ahead. There have been mass cutting of trees. There have been widening of railway lines proposed for a coal corridor through Goa. There have been highway projects, transmission, electricity transmission projects, which have been proposed during the lockdown, when most of us have been, limited in our spaces with having no chance to speak up. And what is heartening to see is how children, with the work that we have done, have been able to come forward to speak up. And that is the miracle I'm talking about, that there have been so many children across Goa who have come up to raise their voice in protection of nature, where they've written poems, for the forests and the trees in the wildlife sanctuaries that are going to be cut down for these proposed projects, infrastructure projects. We've had a draft, we have had a petition signed by thousands of students from Goa, professionals from Goa, including architects, lawyers, who have asked for a redrafting of. We've had so many students coming forward, children coming forward, asking the rest of the populace across the world to join us in our fight to protect the environment. And I think the pandemic simply teaches us that we cannot destroy the very nature that nurtures us. We have to, it is our mother, and we have to, be collaborative in our approach. We have to build sustainably. We have to develop sustainably as a human race. And a miracle is unfolding in front of us during the pandemic. And I think children, a lot of activists, a lot of leaders are showing this light. And we are waiting for everybody to join in this great initiative. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, I agree with you. This is a comment by Moses. There are a lot of children who don't have opportunities to school and formal education, and this is the work that I've been doing. We make sure that every program, right now during the lockdown, I'm doing this program with some of my colleagues called the Backyard Class. Where we simply, share these modules. We work with underprivileged children largely, where we take them out in the immediate neighborhoods because of the restrictions of social physical distancing. And it's been amazing because every module that we do indoors of a little bit of formal training, we eventually take them out, and the connections are amazing, because everything, water, you see water in a pool and you connect to water security, you connect it to water pollution. So these are very vivid examples that we often share. And we hope that these modules are taken on by others to be able to enable them to work with children across the world. Thank you for your inputs.
Talula, your sound is off. Talula, your sound is off. Okay. Your sound is off. Turn it on. Can you turn it on? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. All right. Okay.
Okay, okay. So I don't know where I stopped off or where you didn't hear me, but this is a question asked by Bogdan about whether we are following the path of the students that we are engaging with. Yes, we are. There are a number of students who have, asserted their interest in environmental work, in wildlife. And so we did special training with them with scientists from across India. And right now they're pursuing their interest in wildlife, biology, sciences. There are others we are trying to help. There are a couple of students. One of them wants to get into art. He's in the 10th grade now. We are trying to give him, like a special module. We are working with him so that he can pursue this. A lot of children we work with, we also try to, push them into skill-based education, skill-based learning, so that the world in the future that we see will need skilled people. And we are trying to give them hope by engaging them, connecting them to funders, connecting them to people who do specific training for them. Yes, I agree with all of you. I think being in nature is a very spiritual experience, and for me, it is. I feel it's my home, and I feel that children need to be given a chance to engage with this spirituality, which is really life changing. And if we consider them leaders of tomorrow, I think this is the platform that we definitely. It's critical that we engage them with this, enterprise. Yes, Bogdan, I agree with you. I feel so happy to have connected with all of you. There are so many learnings. Every time you're connected, a door opens, and in this case, the golden door opens. It's a door opening to more opportunities, to connecting with more people. I think our lives are simply enriched because we connect. We belong to a tribe. We are connecting to a tribe. We are connecting to a tribe that cares, that can make a change and a difference in the world. Thank you, Tahira. Thank you, Roshani. Yes, Wai Ching, we belong together. Final message to Golden Door. I think it's a fantastic initiative. So kudos to the whole team. Tahira, this is something fantastic. I was moved by what you shared of your conversation with your dad. And I think we have angels and messages reaching out to us. So I think Golden Door is a fantastic platform. I'm happy. I think you found all of us, and as a token of giving back, I think we'll keep finding a lot of more who we can show the golden door. Thank you. Thank you, Prasanjit. Yes, thank you, Roshani. I have a number of blogs that I write, so do check them up. I will list them here. I have a blog where all my published writings are listed on. And I also have a blog where all the work with the children I do is shared on a blog called Mission Green Goa. And besides that, of course, there's a professional blog of the work that I do in architecture, again with a focus on sustainability and building, ecologically right. So do connect and do read. Good luck to all of you. Thank you for all your appreciation and your encouragement. Thank you.